Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you my little Cuticula haul. So towards the beginning of July, I picked up the Shimmercore quad, which came out alongside Fairycore, which you probably know as one of their polish pickup shades that they brought back for Rewind this year. And I decided to also pick up a couple of toppers that I had been eyeing for a while. So without further ado, let me just show you the swatches. The first shade in the quad is Candycore, and I think I would describe this as a warm, peachy, orange kind of base with a glowy green shimmer. I would say this is a jelly or maybe crelly leaning base because as you can see from the first coat, well, hopefully you can see, the base is decently pigmented. You can definitely tell that it has that orangey kind of color, but it still is a bit sheer. It has a really smooth, really even coverage formula. I would say to just be a little bit careful with any kind of brush strokes. I found this to be almost slightly pearlescent looking, but really nice coverage overall. And I ended up leaving this on 2 coats, though you could do a third if you want to obscure your nail line even more. The shimmers in this quad go from this green to this sort of aqua blue color in extreme lighting. And for my full hand swatches, I am still showing 2 coats with a glossy top coat, but I'm also wearing a blurring base coat on my ring and pinky fingers. On my ring is Polish for Days Briar Rose, which is more of a rosy, neutral kind of color. It's a little closer to my skin tone. And on my pinky is Cotton Candy, which is a cotton candy pink. I would say for this shade, Cotton Candy definitely looks like a better base color. It just really makes the orange pop. The next shade we have is Princescore, and this is a really cute, maybe bubblegum pink jelly base with that same glowy green shimmer. I found this one to be a bit more sheer on the first coat, where you sort of barely get that wash of that pink base color, but it does start to build up a little nicer on the second coat, just really giving a soft, dainty, baby pink sort of vibe. And again, as expected, the shimmer in this is incredibly glowy, so of course you could also do a third coat to deepen or intensify the pink base color a bit more, but it is still going to be sheer enough to show through to your nail line. I know that might not be for everybody, but I just really love it, especially with glowy shimmers like this. It always reminds me of cellophane or like fairy wings, just so magical and ethereal. Shocking to nobody, this is one of my top favorites from the quad because it's a beautiful pink. And again, for my full hand swatches, I have the blurring bases on my ring and pinky, and I definitely would say Cotton Candy is also a perfect base for this. It just keeps it a little truer to the original base on my first 2 fingers, for example. On my ring finger, it just looks a little more muted. The purple in the lineup is called Dreamcore, and this is a more red-toned purple jelly base with that same glowy green shimmer. This one was also on the sheer side, more similar to Princescore, and on the first coat I feel like it almost looks exactly like Princescore because it is a warm-toned purple, but once you build it up in 2 or especially 3 coats, you just get more of that purple base color coming through. It looks a little bit less pink, and it's just so gorgeous. Like, I always love these purple bases with a green shimmer. It just immediately falls into that enchanting, magical, whimsical fairy vibe for me. I'm sure this is looking familiar, so don't worry, we will see comparisons later. But yeah, I still really love this for what it is, especially having the shimmer shift to that aqua blue. It's just such a beautiful combination. And for my full hand swatch, I actually think either blurring base could work. Like, Briar Rose is still a little bit more muted in comparison, but Cotton Candy just makes it lean a little too pink, so it just again looks like Princescore in my opinion. But I know Polish for Days also has a lavender blurring base, so you know, having a more purple one would keep it purple, if that makes sense. I don't think you could go wrong with either one, but I kind of like the versatility of having Cotton Candy with this one because it's kind of like 2-in-1 polishes. And rounding out the quad is Bubblecore, which is a bright aqua blue jelly base with that same glowy shimmer. I would say this is another top favorite of mine, maybe even a little bit more than Princescore. There's just something so magical about this combination. It just gives instant mermaid vibes, and I feel like it's pretty unique to my collection too. Like, I have a ton of pink shimmers, but I don't have a lot of these brighter aqua blues. So the color alone is just incredibly beautiful, but yeah, it has the same kind of formula, unsurprisingly. A little bit sheer on the first coat. You still see some nail line on the second coat, but it does build up nicely, even though it doesn't really obscure the nail line after 3 coats. But the shimmer is just so incredibly glowy. I feel like it doesn't really matter too much, but either way, I'm also showing these with the blurring base coats. And for this one, I thought it was really interesting that Briar Rose didn't really mute the base color as much as the other ones did. It actually kept it pretty similar to the original color, so I did love that. But I also really loved this over Cotton Candy because it kind of made it a more cornflower or maybe periwinkle leaning color. It just looked so pretty, but that really is only noticeable in direct sunlight or maybe just more direct lighting in general, because obviously once you go into lower lighting, the shimmer just gets so blown out, so that's kind of all that you see. And here is my collage of the Shimmercore quad. Obviously, so in love with these shades. If anything, I would say that Candycore is my least favorite, but it is still cute. Then for some extra toppers that I picked up, the first one I added was Glacier, which is this iridescent blue flake topper that also has some flashes of green in it. So as I'm sure you all know, with iridescent flakies, they have this see-through quality to them, so they sort of transform depending on the base color underneath. And I feel like these blue iridescent flakes are pretty notorious because they look awful over white or lighter colors, because you get that yellow color instead of the blue, which only shows up over darker shades. So you are a lot more limited with this topper specifically. I wanted to grab it since I never picked up Holo Taco's Sonic Unicorn skin, which recently got retired, and I figured it would be good to have one in my collection, especially for any recreation attempts, because when I saw this on the website, I was like, wait, I think the flakes in this are really similar to Cuticula's Wake Me Up Inside from Polish Pickup, so we'll be testing that a little bit later in the video. And the other topper that I picked up was Pixie Crush, which is this shredded, holographic, metallic, flaky in a sort of pastel color mix in mainly pink, yellow, and blue. But yeah, this is a super cute topper. I've had this on my wish list for such a long time because if you've watched my videos, you know that I really love Cuticula's Candy Crush, which is the primary like rainbow version of this. So I loved that they came out with a more pastel kind of color version. It's just so cute with the colors. The flakes are gorgeous, like the metallic shine, the holographic sparkle. It is just so pretty, like a fun explosion on your nails. This had a nice formula overall. As a topper, I'm just showing it in the one coat over a sheer pink and a white and black. It had really great payoff with just the one coat. There's a decent amount of flakes on each nail, and if anything, I would recommend a glitter smoothing top coat just because you get some texture. And lastly, I have Confetti Crush, which is a new sibling polish to the Lash Shade and Candy Crush like I mentioned before. This I got as a gift with purchase, I think for ordering the Shimmercore quad, maybe being like one of the first however many orders. And at first glance, I was gonna say it had a similar base mix as Pixie Crush, but I actually think it's a combination of Pixie and Candy because this has a full rainbow color spectrum of flakes like Candy Crush, but in a pastel mix like Pixie, if that makes sense. And of course, the biggest difference is that this also has this little wavy sort of S-shaped kind of glitter that just gives it this fun confetti feel. I've seen that glitter in a couple of toppers before and I never really cared for it too much. Like, it is super unique, but I really love it in combination with these colors. I think it's just so perfect, especially for the name. This does have great payoff in just the one coat, but I did notice a slight yellow tinge on the base, especially over white. Now for comparisons, we're starting with Candycore, and I first thought of KBShimmer's Flip Out, which has a orangey base with a gold shimmer, but it's a lot more neon and vibrant. So for a slightly darker or less neon version, I then pulled out KBShimmer's Stick With Me as well as Cirque's Flaminglow. From the bottle alone, I thought that KBShimmer looked really similar to Candycore, but there is a slight difference on the nail. It's a little bit more sheer, not as orangey, I guess. Like there's maybe a certain warm coral quality to Candycore, and Flaminglow is a little bit darker, not to mention it also has the holographic sparkle, and the shimmer isn't as intense and glowy as it is in Candycore. So they are very similar vibes, but not dupes. And for reference, I figured I could show this next to Broken Pixel's Citrus Drift, which is another orangey kind of base, but that's more of a tangerine orange and with a pink shimmer instead. Next for Princescore, we of course are looking at it next to Polish for Days You're Gonna Be Popular, which is a bubblegum pink base with a glowy green shimmer. But as you can see, the base is a lot lighter, so I thought maybe Blossom would be a little closer, having this more orchid base color, but on the nail it's a lot darker, not to mention the shimmer is red. So between the two, You're Gonna Be Popular is definitely the most similar, having almost the same exact shimmer going from green to blue, but it just has a lighter pink base. For reference, here is Princescore next to Polish for Days Barbie on the Boardwalk, which was a previous Polish pickup shade, and Apocalypse's Hot Cordyceps Summer. These are more of what I would call like true hot pink colors, so they are just a bit darker and more vibrant. Also for Mooncat references, I have Merkitten and High Fructose, which are kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Again, Merkitten being a deeper hot pink and High Fructose being a little too light and maybe cool toned. And lastly, I have ILNP's Pixie Party and Nailed It's Wish Upon a Starlight from Hella Handmade a couple of months ago. Pixie Party does have a warmer pink base, but it has a similar green shimmer. It's just a larger particle compared to the more finely milled one in Princescore or the Nailed It, but maybe Nailed It is closer to You're Gonna Be Popular, just having a lighter bubblegum color. For Dreamcore, I of course have to show this next to Fairycore, which was the original. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that Fairycore started to fade a little bit, so it's not as vibrant as it used to be, but it is a cooler toned purple instead of a red toned purple. And for warmer toned bases, I pulled out Polish for Days Lush and Bee's Knees Lacquer Doomicorn, which is another previous Polish pickup shade. Between these two, I think I would say Lush is a little closer because it has that similar super glowy, finely milled shimmer. The shimmer in the Bee's Knees doesn't look as glowy to me, but it does have a similar green to blue aqua shift, while the Polish for Days has more of an aqua to cobalt or indigo color shift. So maybe Dreamcore is a combination of these two, so they're not technically dupes, but maybe you don't need all three. And lastly, for reference, I wanted to show Dreamcore next to Polish for Days Eternal Glow, which as you can see is a much darker shade of purple with a red shimmer instead. Next for Bubblecore, I had to see this next to Pie Colors 1000 Stars, which I just picked up from Polish Pickup Rewind last month. This has another dreamy aqua blue with a super glowy shimmer, but as I'm sure you can tell, it's a much lighter, almost sky blue color in the Pie Colors, and the shimmer has a much more predominant yellow color head on, while it's a little bit more green in Bubblecore. So then I thought to pull out Holo Taco's Light Link from their Lite multi-chromes collection. I don't remember exactly what it was called, and also Mooncat's Mermaid bait, which again are these blue bases with glowy shimmers. I would say Light Link is the closest because of the shade of the blue base and the color of the shimmer, especially because Mermaid bait is more of like a pinky color head on, but it does shift to this yellowy green in extreme light, so in some angles I can see how it could look similar, if that makes sense, but Light Link is definitely a few shades darker. And from ILNP, the closest shades that I had were Skate Date and Wavelength, which is from a recent summer collection. I think that Skate Date has a slightly closer base color, or at least it's lighter and more sheer, while Wavelength is a bit more buildable, so it looks darker on the nail, but the shimmer in both of these is a much more fiery orangey red color instead of green.
Then for Glacier, I wanted to quickly show this next to Mooncat's Sugar and Spice topper and Crack's Fairy Tinkle, which are other iridescent, flaky kind of toppers, but both the Mooncat and Cracked are much more rainbow in their color mixes, so they have some pops of pink and purple that you don't see in Glacier. And here is Glacier next to Glitch's May Flowers, which does have some aqua flakes in it, but it's also predominantly a blue and purple kind of mix, along with this reflective glitter. So, unsurprisingly, Glacier is going to be the closest, if not an exact dupe, for Holo Taco's Sonic Unicorn skin or any other blue iridescent flake topper. I think Glacier has some more pops of like this aqua color, while Sonic Unicorn skin looks a little darker overall, but for all intents and purposes, they are pretty much the same. And like I said earlier in the video, and even in my polish pickup wishlisting video, I had a feeling I could maybe recreate Wake Me Up Inside if I had a blue flake topper over something like KBShimmer's Azure Wish. So here's what that looks like. The KBShimmer does have more of a true black base, while Cuticula is a very, very dark blue. So I did do a layer of ILNP's Midnight Ink to give it a little bit more of that blue color, but it's a little too dark and you kind of lose the magnetic. Then for Pixie Crush, I had to show this next to Candy Crush, which I mentioned before, but unfortunately my bottle sort of faded or something. I haven't heard of this happening to anybody else, so it's possible I just added the wrong type of thinner to it years ago, because as you can see, it kind of lost all of the holographic and metallic elements of the flakies, but it is still rainbow. And of course, here is Pixie Crush next to Confetti Crush, which again kind of has a similar pastel color vibe. There's just a few additional colors in Confetti Crush, like a lavender or a green, and of course those gold S-shape kind of glitters. But hopefully you can also see, at least in the initial bottle shot, that Confetti Crush has that slight yellowy tinge to the base, but I don't think it's as noticeable over a sheer pink. And lastly, I wanted to include this photo comparison to Emily Damali's Waiting for the Sun, which was the other glitter topper that has that gold S-shaped glitter. But as you can see, that's like the predominant one in the Emily Damali, and it features a smaller gold hex glitter as well.
And that wraps up my swatches and comparisons of my little shimmer and topper haul from Cuticula. As always, I would love to know what you think of these shades. Do you have any of them? Did you pick up the Shimmercore quad? Or I guess the set alongside with Fairycore? Because as you know, that was one of my favorite shades from Polish Pickup last year. And it is such a shame that it is starting to fade. I feel like, unfortunately, there are some purple polishes that just tend to fade more than others. And I didn't even realize it until I had shared my swatch video over on my shorts tab, I think like at the end of June, to let people know that Fairycore was coming back, where I saw a comment that was saying like, is my bottle the only one that faded? And a few other people were chiming in, and looking back at my original swatch footage, it did unfortunately fade a tiny bit. I don't think that's going to be an issue with any of these shades, if anything, possibly with Dreamcore since it is the purple, but it should be okay. I guess it's just one of those, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But that being said, I just love the rest of the Shimmercore siblings, because obviously I already loved Fairycore, so having this like expanded color palette, even though it is just like 4 shades, I just thought they were so beautiful. Like I said, I think during the collage portion, I knew my least favorite, unfortunately, was going to be Candycore because of the, well, not really because of the base color, but I guess the combination of the base and the green shimmer. There's just something about it that I don't love as much as I do with, like, you know, the others. But after trying it on, I was like, okay, but the base is like really pretty still. So jury's out if I am gonna end up destashing that one, because at first I was like, okay, you know, I'll have it for the video and comparisons and whatnot, but that one's probably gonna sit in my destash pile. But the others I am obsessed with. I think Bubblecore is my top pick, closely followed behind by Princescore, because of course it's the pink. And as far as the toppers go, I was really happy to finally have a blue iridescent flaky topper in my collection. I know it's crazy to think that I didn't have one already. I was super close to picking up the one from Holo Taco before it got retired, but I ended up, thinking like, well, I don't really need it, right? Because it's not something that I am missing from my collection, where I have a mani and I'm like, oh, it would be really great if I had a blue flake topper. It's not something that I was missing personally, but after seeing like, some shades like Wake Me Up Inside or just anything else that have these like blue flakies, I feel like it should kind of exist in my collection for the sake of at least trying to do these recreation attempts or comparisons later. So to me, Glacier is really pretty, but it's more of like a necessity thing in my collection. I am way more excited about like Pixie Crush, for example, even though again, I know I had that one on my wish list for like the longest time and I've been living my life without it. So it's not like, I needed it. Technically, I didn't need any of these, but they are all so beautiful, so up my alley. And I ended up really also liking Confetti Crush too. I wasn't super crazy about it. I was actually unaware of like the gift with purchase aspect with that shade. I just like missed it. So I was on the fence on whether I wanted to add it because obviously I saw it like on the website and I was like, oh, that one's like really pretty too. It's like, so cute. It really does capture that like fun confetti feel. I feel like I'm really gonna love that for like birthday manis, just anything like that. It's just so perfect. And thankfully I saw it in my cart as, a gift with purchase. So I was like, okay, that saves me the decision on whether I should get it or not. So yeah, overall, I just really love this haul. Unsurprising. They are just so beautiful. But yeah, let me know what you think down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.